Welcome to Surreal Crimes. Radnor Township, Pennsylvania. April 23, 2018. What began as an ordinary evening in an upscale Philadelphia suburb would soon become the center of a shocking crime that made national headlines. That night, police responded to reports of gunshots at a home on Lowry's Lane, where they discovered the bodies of two women. There was no sign of forced entry, no struggle, and no survivors to tell what happened. To investigators, it appeared to be a carefully executed murder-suicide, but the story behind these deaths would reveal a disturbing tale of betrayal, surveillance, and revenge. Let's start from the beginning. Jennair Benavides was born in Fort Wayne, Indiana, where she grew into a confident and resourceful young woman. In 1986, a teenage boy named Mark Gerardot first noticed her while she was working at a local Taco Bell. Mark was immediately struck by her beauty, but was too intimidated to approach her. 4 years later, their paths crossed again while both were working at a mall. This time, it was Jennair who made the first move, boldly asking Mark if he was ever going to ask her out. From that moment on, the two became inseparable, building a relationship based on mutual ambition and shared dreams for the future. Mark and Jennair married on October 23, 1993. She was 23 and he was 25. The couple pursued careers in marketing, with Mark working as a creative director and Jennair establishing herself as a marketing professional. Their LinkedIn profiles showcased their impressive credentials and career accomplishments. While they never had children, they were devoted dog parents and enjoyed an active lifestyle together. In 1998, 5 years after their wedding, Mark and Jennair took a bold step by starting their own creative agency in Indianapolis called Gerardot Incorporated. Mark served as the creative director while Jennair managed marketing and operations. For 10 years, they built their business together until the financial crisis of 2008 caused significant hardship. The economic downturn became a turning point in their marriage. The stress of running a business together during difficult financial times began to strain their relationship. They decided to make a change and look for new career opportunities. In November 2011, they closed their agency and relocated to Greenville, South Carolina, in search of a fresh start. In South Carolina, both found employment, Mark as an art director and Jennair as a marketing manager. Their financial situation improved, and according to Mark, this period became a renaissance for their marriage. Their social media accounts portrayed the image of a perfect couple, sharing photos of hikes with their dogs and affectionate posts calling each other "my lovely husband" and "my lovely wife." But by 2017, their happiness began to deteriorate again. Jennair lost her job and struggled to find new employment. At around 45 years old, she faced the difficulties that many professionals encounter in midlife job transitions. Her inability to secure a new position took a toll on her self-confidence and placed additional strain on their marriage. Following their established pattern of relocating for career opportunities, Mark and Jennair decided to expand their job search to other regions. In November 2017, Mark secured a position as creative director at the University of Delaware and moved to Wilmington. Jennair remained in South Carolina temporarily to handle the sale of their home and tie up loose ends before joining him. During those 45 days while Mark was in Delaware alone, he met Meredith Chapman, the university's director of digital communications and his new boss. Meredith was 16 years younger than Jennair, and like her, was a marketing professional, confident, ambitious, and accomplished. Mark was instantly captivated by her. Just 2 weeks after his arrival in Delaware, Mark and Meredith went out for drinks after work. According to Mark, their conversation flowed so easily that drinks turned into dinner, and the evening felt like a date. Meredith complimented his talent and abilities, praise that Mark later admitted he hadn't heard from his wife in some time. Within 4 weeks, their professional relationship had evolved into a romantic affair. By the time Jennair joined Mark in Delaware in January 2018, he had already exchanged "I love yous" with Meredith, despite both being married to other people. Jennair immediately sensed something was wrong in her marriage. Mark had been frequently mentioning Meredith since starting his new job, praising her professional abilities and leadership. When Jennair directly asked if he was having an affair with Meredith, Mark denied it. This denial became a crucial turning point that triggered what would become a deadly obsession in Jennair to uncover the truth. Lacking employment and feeling increasingly isolated in a new city, Jenner channeled all her intelligence and energy into surveillance of her husband. Without Mark's knowledge, she cloned his phone, allowing her to read his text messages and view photos exchanged between him and Meredith. What she discovered, declarations of love and statements like "I can't live without you," caused her tremendous emotional distress. Jenner's surveillance operation expanded dramatically. She opened a secret bank account and credit card to fund her activities without Mark's knowledge. She purchased GPS tracking devices and placed them on both Mark's and Meredith's vehicles, labeling them "lying jerk" and "whore" in her tracking application. She bought lockpicking equipment, computer hacking software, DNA testing kits to analyze stains on his clothing, and listening devices that she sewed into the linings of his jackets. Through these hidden microphones, Jenner recorded hours of conversations between Mark and Meredith, meticulously transcribing them into notebooks. Mark would later discover 12 such notebooks filled with detailed accounts of his affair. Around Valentine's Day 2018, armed with irrefutable evidence, Jenner confronted Mark about the affair. He finally admitted the truth, and they agreed to attend marriage counseling. However, Mark later acknowledged that they had different goals for these sessions. Jenner wanted to save their marriage, while he hoped to use counseling to persuade her to accept the inevitable end of their relationship. During this time, Mark continued seeing Meredith, unaware that Jenner knew his every move through her elaborate surveillance. The breaking point came when Mark discovered one of the listening devices sewn into his jacket lining on his way to their second counseling session. In mid-March 2018, he told Jenner he wanted a divorce. The news devastated Jenner. She had recently relocated to Delaware to be with Mark, had no job, and now faced the prospect of her 24-year marriage ending because her husband had fallen in love with a younger woman. Due to Delaware's residency requirements, Mark couldn't file for divorce until May, meaning the couple continued living together despite the deteriorating state of their relationship. Jenner's mental health began to decline rapidly. She threatened suicide, telling Mark she might jump out a window. At his suggestion, she began seeing both a therapist and a divorce coach. According to the divorce coach, Jenner expressed resentment about being thrown away and traded in for a younger model. She worried about how she would support herself without employment and felt her life was over as she grew older. Despite her inner turmoil, Jenner presented a calm exterior to Mark. She created a list of requests that included activities like going to restaurants and taking hikes together, essentially asking him to continue dating her while he prepared to leave her. Mark complied with these requests, believing they were helping her accept the situation and hoping for an amicable separation. What Mark didn't know was that behind this facade of acceptance, Jenner had already decided on a course of action. After he requested the divorce, she purchased a gun and began practicing at a shooting range at least 3 days a week while he was at work. She rented a Cadillac with her secret credit card and drove to Radnor Township, Pennsylvania, where Meredith had recently moved for a new position at Villanova University. Jenner bought disguises, a trench coat, hat, sunglasses, and a wig to conduct surveillance on Meredith's home without being recognized. Meanwhile, Meredith Chapman had also informed her husband about the affair and asked for a divorce. Unlike the Geradots, the Chapmans were proceeding with an amicable separation. On the evening of April 23, 2018, Jenner told Mark she would meet him for dinner to discuss divorce details, as he planned to file the paperwork in early May. When she didn't arrive at the restaurant, Mark received a series of text messages from her. The first said she was running late. The second instructed him to go home because she wasn't coming. The third was a disturbing photograph of a used condom in a trash can, an image Mark recognized as being taken inside Meredith's house. Panic-stricken, Mark received more messages, "You ruined my life," followed by "I hope you never find happiness," and finally, "Bye, Mark." Unable to reach either Jenner or Meredith by phone, Mark drove to Meredith's house in Radnor Township. While Mark had been waiting at the restaurant, Jenner had broken into Meredith's home and hidden, waiting for her to return. When Meredith arrived around 7 p.m., Jenner shot her in the kitchen and then turned the gun on herself. After the deaths, police discovered that Jenner had emailed a 15-page letter to both Mark and her family, detailing her plans and motivations. This letter, part suicide note and part journal, revealed that she had begun planning her revenge immediately after Mark asked for a divorce. In one particularly revealing passage, she wrote, "They cannot get away with destroying my life for their gain. My life and soul are broken. I am not even a shell of the person I once was." In interviews after the tragedy, Mark acknowledged that when Jen Eyre began expressing suicidal thoughts, she was at her most dangerous, a tipping point that, in retrospect, should have been recognized as a warning sign. A psychotherapist who later studied the case noted that listening to the intimate recordings of Mark and Meredith's affair had made Jen Eyre a fly on the wall, triggering rage and convincing her that she was justified in her actions. The deaths of Jen Eyre Gerardot and Meredith Chapman shocked their communities and families. What began as a workplace attraction had escalated into an affair, surveillance, and ultimately murder and suicide. The case serves as a tragic reminder of how betrayal and the dissolution of a long-term relationship can sometimes lead to unimaginable consequences. Meredith Chapman was a talented professional with a promising career ahead of her. At just 33 years old, she had already achieved significant success in her field and was known for her energy and passion. Her life was cut short just as she was beginning a new chapter at Villanova University. Jen Eyre Gerardot was once described as confident and resourceful. Her 24-year marriage to Mark had weathered previous challenges, including starting a business together and surviving the economic recession. Friends and colleagues knew her as determined and meticulous, traits that ultimately manifested in her elaborate surveillance and tragic final plan. The story of this case reminds us of the profound emotional devastation that can occur when trust is broken and relationships dissolve. It highlights how mental health support is crucial during times of personal crisis, and how even those who appear to be coping may be harboring thoughts of desperate actions. Today, we remember Meredith Chapman and Jen Eyre Gerardot, two women whose lives intersected in the most tragic of circumstances, and reflect on the hidden pain that sometimes lurks beneath the surface of seemingly ordinary lives.